So Manchester United prevail at the Etihad. Shocking result there.
Yeah.
Man United doing that. Let me get to Daniel Koranteng. He will give us the best take on this. Daniel, so were you shocked, stunned, or were left indifferent?
Oh, I was shocked. I expected Manchester City to win. Yes, I obviously not by 5-6-0, but I knew it would be difficult based on the way United had played or approached big games this season. I knew it would be difficult, but I expected Manchester City to win. It was the exact opposite. In fact, after 20 minutes, United should have been leading 4-0. They absolutely cut open City time and time again, had very good opportunities, but for Ederson, City would have gone down 2-3, 4-0 by 20 minutes. But you could see the clear-cut game plan that United had, and that is what this team is suited to do, to defend and then catch teams on a counter-attack. And they have the front two in Martial and Rashford who can do exactly that for them. The pace is crazy, and they are very, very difficult. Okay, Dan James. It's very, very difficult to keep an eye on them and track them down. And look at the state of Manchester City's defense at the moment. It was very obvious that was what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to do. And for Pep, he would be disappointed in himself and not his personnel, because he said it after the game that they conceded too many counter-attacks. Whose fault is it? The way you play is how your opponents...
But I've heard him say that he was proud of his team and that they were not outplayed by United.
Yes, but I'm talking about that statement, the fact that he said they conceded too many counter-attacks. It was obviously going to happen. That was how United, or that was the only way United were going to be able to break Manchester City down. But from a United point of view, look, I at the beginning of last week, or at the beginning of the week, I looked at all the possible scenarios, and I said to myself, if United were able to survive this week, a good result against Spurs and a good result against Manchester City, it is only covering the cracks that exist in the team, and it's going to create or amplify the deception that is going around that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the man to
lifetime contract.
Look, it's you cannot for a team like Manchester United, whether you are rebuilding or not, you have to keep your eye at the top. You have to be aiming for the Premier League title. You cannot enter a season and be content with finishing in top 4 or be content with good performances. You cannot draw against Aston Villa, be outplayed by Newcastle, be outplayed by Sheffield United, and turn up in 2 games against Spurs and Manchester City and say you've arrived. You haven't arrived, because that's what Wolves were doing last season. They were beating the big teams. They beat United, they beat Chelsea, they beat Spurs, they drew against Manchester City. So look, that doesn't cut it for me. United need to be consistent. They need to find a way to beat the other teams and be dominant when you play those games and beat the other teams. And obviously, if you add this to it, that will be good. But you cannot do this and then stand in front of everybody and do like you've arrived, because certainly you haven't.
All right, Ben, but from a Manchester City perspective, that's another body blow. That's almost like knockout punch. in terms of the title race.
It is. And just before I even go to that point, I mean, Daniel was trying to death Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The truth of the matter is that, look, numbers don't lie, and he's not lost any big game this season. Forget about Spurs and forget about Manchester City. They beat Chelsea and Lampard 4-0 in the opener. They drew with Arsenal, drew with Liverpool, beat Tottenham, has beaten Manchester City. That's no fluke.
Points. When you beat Spurs, you get 3 points. You don't get 6 points for beating
Chelsea.
Teams. When you
drew with
Chelsea,
Liverpool.
You get 3 points.
At the peak where, or at the point
Newcastle,
where everybody thought that Liverpool were going to rip apart Man United, but to the point of Manchester City. And yesterday just highlighted for me a few things. Now, we've gone on and on about how they've dropped points where they aren't supposed to, but I'm just going back to the start of the season and how they ended last season and how they came into this season. First thing I noticed was their inability to, or lack of willingness to replace Vincent Kompany. And that really stuck out for me yesterday, because you look at this season and all their troubles have been built around their centre-back issues. First and foremost, they've tried to reinvent it by bringing in a defensive midfielder and converting him into a centre-back. There's always going to be
Laporte.
issues with that. Good. And then yesterday they lost John Stones as well to another injury. But there were points in yesterday's game where when United had failed to capitalize on their opportunities, there were balls that fell to the edge of the penalty box that were begging to be hit. And that's Vincent Kompany's type of thing. In yesterday's game, they lacked leadership. I was looking around the pitch and there was nobody to lead this team forward. On days when Sergio Aguero is in the team, he's not necessarily the most vocal leader, but he leads by example. He latches onto balls you don't think he will latch onto. He will score from half opportunities, but yesterday there was nothing to it. And then I felt as if Pep Guardiola allowed Bernardo Silva to thrive in a game yesterday too long where he definitely should have been young at least by the end of the first 45 minutes. And you see, sometimes that's why I like a coach like Jose Mourinho. It's a little radical. It will dampen the morale of the player, but dire situations ask for dire measures. And this is like a big game. This is arguably, if you take away a Liverpool game this season, that's their biggest game this season. So they should have done something to rescue the game. And then Riyad Mahrez comes on and looked like he was gassed after 10 minutes. I don't know what was wrong with him, but his fitness looked really suspect. Yeah. In all, they have a lot of issues to address. I mean, the longer Aguero stays out, the longer I think they will endure goal-scoring issues, because you realize that Sterling scores only when Aguero plays. And that's not a coincidence. It's because he takes so much attention off him. Aguero is always drawing two defenders at a time. Yeah. Sterling gets more opportunities to run in behind and do his thing. But yesterday, it just didn't work out for him. And honestly speaking, I'm also beginning to doubt Raheem Sterling's big game temperament. I mean, he does score every now and then. But look, in the biggest of games where he's had good goal-scoring opportunities.
And especially when he's supposed to provide what City needs.
Yesterday, in the absence of Aguero, he was definitely their most lethal guy. He was their talisman. David Silva will always be the guy in the background trying to help you out with things, but he should have, grabbed the bull by the horn. He couldn't do it, and in the end, Manchester City really will be seeking more answers, because I have already said that, look, they have about 3 or 4 more games to lose before the season is over. And if you think about what that means for calculation's sake,
that's it's almost title gone. Most of the headlines saying that their title ambitions have taken a body blow. We'll see. Now, the team that is forcing Manchester City to this uncomfortable situation is Liverpool. They had to go to Bournemouth, and Jurgen Klopp in the last few days had been switching up his teams. We'll see the kind of team he took to Bournemouth. When we are done with that, we go to North London, because Tottenham Hotspur, we'll do Spurs later. After that, we'll talk about Everton. So we'll do Liverpool, and then Everton's home game with Chelsea. Everton don't have a manager now. They have a caretaker. His first job was to take on Chelsea at Goodison. So we serve you Bournemouth versus Liverpool, and then Everton versus Chelsea.